It's time to get all set for Sunday, a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics with your hosts, Scott Williams and Jeff Traylor.
When I hear the coffee brewing, I think, what the heck we doing? Because I got barely any sleep last night. As the diaper bag I pack with Hot Wheels dollies and some snacks, I say a prayer there'll be a seat in the crime room this time. It's alright, cause I'm all set for Sunday. It's alright, cause I'm all set for. It's alright, cause I'm all set for. It's alright, cause I'm all set for Sunday.
Welcome to All Set for Sunday, a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics to be a little more prepared for Sunday Mass. My name is Scott Williams. My co-host is Jeff Traylor. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Scott.
How's it going, bud?
Great, man.
Good.
It is. It's going great. We're in Lent. It's been a good Lent.
Yeah. What's been the best part of your Lent?
What's been the best? I mean, to get deep on you, we've had in our family. We've had a lot of medical issues going on with one of my daughters.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a really good Lent. Has been really good for me during that time to really just focus on that stress and suffering and how can I offer that up, and then we've gotten some really great news on that, and everything is looking good. So I think that's been the best part of my Lent, is that I very much know that God had a plan no matter what, but he helped lead me through it in a really powerful way. So
Amen.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Father Andy Syberg, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing today?
Excellent. Thanks for being on the pod
and here in person, live with us. We just love you so much.
Folks out there in podcast land, every time we try to do it over the internet, it doesn't go well. So
no, and it's always even if it went perfectly well, it's always better when you're here.
Yeah,
but it's never gone perfectly well. So
That's
it takes
true.
me just
That's
as
true.
long
It's
to
always,
get the thing up
as it does to just
drive
here.
out here.
Mm-hmm.
So happy to be here.
Yeah. Plus, you get to escape.
That is true.
Yeah. All right, boys, don't burn the house down. I'll be back.
All right. What's been the best part of your Lent?
That it just started. I mean, it's such a late Easter, so there's a late start for Lent, and so I was just kind of chomping to get at the bit, or champing to get. I don't know. Is it chomping or champing?
Chomping at the bit.
I thought it was. It might be champing at the bit.
But the bit is in a horse's mouth, and the horse is chomping.
They're champing at the bit.
I don't think so.
I think it's.
Do you have?
I think it's champion of the bit.
Do you have comment
Lady
sections on this podcast? Comment in the sections.
Yeah, everybody leave a comment
in the show notes.
Yeah,
in the show notes.
No, you can't. We talked about this. You can't put a comment in the show notes.
Send Jeff an email, and we'll put it in the show notes.
Yes.
Yes. Other than that, yes, Lent is going. It's going well, and also we got this grant to build a Mary grotto.
Ooh.
So the statue got here a month early. So we're not ready to build the grotto, but we have the statue, which is the most important. She's over 6 feet tall.
That's awesome. Where you got her?
She's bronze. Right now, we just have it in the cafeteria. But
that's awesome.
We'll put out.
That's what I was hoping you would say. Is that she's just right there,
just
greeting people at the door.
But yeah, we're turning the old dumpster port into a grotto. So.
Not the dumpster people, but
we moved the dumpster from
the stone area where the dumpster used to sit.
And so people would come to Brute and we'd say, when you pull in, just head towards the dumpster. That's how you directed them because you couldn't miss it. Now we can say head towards Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the idea.
Check in with our mother.
Isn't that what Mary does for us in our
She just shows up at where the dumpster used to be and cleans it up.
Yeah. Man.
Turns our dumpster into a beautiful grotto.
Reach right there. Podcast over. Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.
What's your homily about? Well, it's about dumpsters and Mary.
Clip that. All right. Ready for the 2-minute drill?
I am. I think I am. Where'd my paper go? I had a paper. It's over there. I'm not quite. Hold on.
All right. Hey,
we did it. I found it. It's the right one. Very excited. All right.
Fourth Sunday in ordinary Lent.
No, not ordinary, but it is the fourth Sunday of Lent. Our first reading comes from Joshua. So after the Israelites are circumcised, then God tells Joshua that he has rolled away the disgrace of Egypt from his people. And the Israelites celebrate the Passover then. And for the first time, they eat the produce of the land of Canaan, the manna. So they get to manna. Get your manna. You guys remember that? Anyway, that was funny.
Manna.
Yep.
Yes, I do.
In this manna God provided for them, so that through the wilderness, through all that they need, they have the crops now to help feed them. And it marks this new chapter in their journey and shows how God will provide for them in the promised land. Our responsorial psalm, the streak continues, Scott. We are 3 weeks deep and maybe three of the most epic bangers.
I remember saying the other day that it was like the essence of banger, but was it the same psalm? Because this is the essence of banger.
But we are in we're in top fives here. Taste and see the goodness of the Lord, everyone.
USCCB knows what they're doing.
Yes, they do. Yes.
I don't know if they're the ones that
the Crane Bureau, the Crane Certification Bureau nailed this one. And then our second reading comes from the second letter to the Corinthians. In that reading, Paul emphasizes that in Christ, believers are made new, that the old is gone and the new has come. And through his sacrifice, God reconciles the world to himself. He doesn't count the people's sins against them. He reconciles them to himself. And Paul stresses to us that believers are entrusted with the ministry of reconciliation, urges them that they have to share that message of peace with God through Christ. And he concludes by explaining that Jesus, who knew no sin, became a sin for humanity, so that through him, believers might become the righteousness of God. Then we have our gospel reading. Everybody buckle in. Let's see how Jeff can read today. My precursor, my right contact, has been acting up on me, so
you may hold the book back here for you.
I think we'll be all right. Okay. But we'll see how this goes. No, I'm the other way. All right. But all right. The gospel comes from Luke chapter 15, 1-3 and 11-32. Tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus, but the Pharisees and scribes began to complain, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." So to them, Jesus addressed this parable. A man had 2 sons, and the younger son said to his father, "Father, give me the share of your estate that should come to me." So the father divided the property between them. After a few days, the younger son collected all his belongings and set off to a distant country, where he squandered his inheritance on a life of dissipation. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens, who sent him to his farm to tend the swine. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods from which the swine fed, but nobody gave him any. Coming to his senses, he thought, "How many of my father's hired workers have more than enough food to eat? But here I am, dying from hunger. I shall get up, go to my father, and I shall say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against you, or against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers.' So he got up and went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him, and he was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son.' But his father ordered his servants, 'Quickly, bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fattened calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.' Then the celebration began. Now the older son had been out in the field, and on his way back, as he neared the house, he heard the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what this might mean. The servant said to him, 'Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he has him back safe and sound.' He became angry, and when he refused to enter the house, his father came out and pleaded with him. He said to his father in reply, 'Look, all these years I have served you, and not once did I disobey your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat to feast on with my friends. But when your son returns, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughter the fattened calf.' He said to him, 'My son, you are here with me always. Everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.'"
All right. I think you did a very nice job with that.
I should give the clarification. As I started reading, I remembered that in my former life as a director of campus ministry and leading retreats, there is on the senior retreat, there's a reflection on the prodigal son that I very, very often was in charge of and would do. So there might not be a scripture passage I have read out loud more than this passage. I even found myself at points there just like clocked it, like I was just reciting it. I think I know it that well. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Did Jeff get anything wrong, Father?
No, I don't believe so.
Thanks. Great.
You checked out too.
Well, yeah, just listening to you read it, it's pretty well known tale here in the scriptures. Gosh, even if you're not a person of faith, everybody knows the prodigal son,
Yeah.
at least the expression, the prodigal son. But you can see the trajectory of the scriptures, like 40 years in the desert and then manna, and now that is old, and now there's going to be the fruits of this life in Cana. St. Paul, the old things have passed away, become a new creature in Christ. And then you see this in this very profound, personal way in the young man, in the prodigal son. The old one has died and now he's alive again. So there's just this moving up in the world, so to speak, that our scriptures are giving us this weekend. So
what are you gonna zero in on? What's the
prodigal son?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
imagine being like, let's talk about taste and see the goodness of the Lord.
The one thing I would say about that, taste and see the goodness of the Lord, is I will bless the Lord at all times. All times. That can be a tricky thing to do, but all times. So, but anyways,
too, didn't you?
Yes, the prodigal son. Yeah, there's almost too much stuff in the prodigal son.
There is. That's what I was going to say. There's like
to go through
an infinite number of angles to take. Like it's maybe again because I've lived it so much, but like. Every time I've ever reflected on it, talked about it, read it, I hear it from a different perspective. I associate myself with a different. This is like probably the parable that made me understand like that depth of parables. That like there's not just an answer or an explanation. This podcast has helped with that a lot too. But.
For me, it was the there are two sets of footprints in the sand.
Was that the one that's not a parable?
That's from what we're watching on.
Well, but when things got hard, there was only one, Scott.
So it's like in terms of like a homily, what I'm focusing on is obviously mercy. But the first thing that Jesus talks about, the Pharisees come to him and they complain to him, saying, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with him." Well, thanks be to God for that. If Jesus was picky about who he spent his time with, we'd all be screwed. So this is a very good thing
true
for
story.
us. And then he, kind of goes barreling into this story, and the younger son asking for his inheritance. Well, you only got inheritance when your father died. So the son was saying to his father, essentially, "You're as good as dead to me. So give me my stuff so I can get out of Dodge." So obviously that relationship, a little frayed at the time. The distant country, like pick a country. That's what happens when we sin. We take what we can and we run off to a distant country, and we don't really understand the fullness of what it is that we're doing until we get there and we like disaster strikes. And then for the Jewish, ear hearing this parable, getting sent to work with the swine is like the lowest of the low, right? Swine are unclean animals. And so the fact that you're now working with pigs and wanting to eat their food, Jesus is essentially putting this guy into an absolute disastrous place. Like you can't get much lower. And then he comes to his senses, right? But what I would kind of preach on is this idea of the Father's mercy. And you have the younger son and the older son both error in their assessment of the Father's mercy. Well, maybe my father will hire me back just to work. Well, the father completely overwhelms that. So whatever he thought he might get from his father, it just gets completely blown away by the generosity and the mercy of his father. The older son does as well. And it's an interesting way he puts it, like, when your son. So like he's already separating himself from his brother. He's like, I don't even want anything to do with this guy. When your son does this.
He doesn't even go here anymore.
Yeah, he's like, he doesn't even go here. So he shows up, and the older brother, he's such that older brother, it's like, I've done everything you've asked. Like, you won't even give me a goat. Like, that's what you want? Like a goat? That's your high watermark.
But man, I remember you read that and you're like, what a brat. And then you're like, oh, dang it. Like that's for sure me many, many times. Like,
well,
dang it.
Again, the idea, he was just, the father says, everything I have is yours. It almost comes off to me as like a question. Like, did you not know that? You know how generous I am. Does my reaction to your brother's return really surprise you? And apparently it does. For me, one of the saddest things about this story happens within the older brother. He's obviously very angry, but again, it's like, here is this man that I have called father my entire life, and it turns out I don't know him at all. His father is basically his boss, and that's a bad way to have a relationship with God. I just need to be a good employer. I need to be a good worker. I'm a good boy. I've done what I've been asked. And that's like the cornerstone of our relationship. And it turns this relationship with God into this very transactional thing. And then all you got to do is just turn and look at a crucifix, and you're like,
oh yeah,
this is not a transactional thing.
Yeah.
The father is so willing to just give everything to his younger son. And, and the story. So my dad, he doesn't like stories that have no closure. Drives him crazy. This story does not have closure.
None, zero.
It just ends with the father and the son out in the field, which is a good thing that this older boy, he's in a bad spot, but the father's still with him. So folks, like if you find yourself in a rough way, like the father is still with you, but I think it's kind of a good exercise. Is like, go home and write the rest of that story. How would you want it to end?
I hear what you're saying about like this transactional relationship that you see in the older brother. I also like, I'm a person who, and I get it from my mom, but I'm like a fiercely loyal person. The people I love and care about, like I will die for. And like, oftentimes that ends up in situations where if I see them hurt, I am much less willing to forgive than they are of the person who hurt them. Right. Like my children, my parent, my family, my sister, like if somebody crosses them or wrongs them, like I'm done. I'm out on that person. Even if they are forgiven by, if it's my wife, even if my wife can forgive that, I struggle with that. And I see that a little bit here in the brother, that like he's frustrated, but like I also wonder, like he has also been through this with his father where his son left and said, you're basically dead to me. And like I can't imagine, like I can a little bit imagine how hurtful as a parent that would be. And he's been with him through this and lived this and like been there and stuck with him and took that on. So I imagine like that frustration being even more like so overwhelming of like, how are you just forgiving him? Like
how is it that easy?
Yes.
And I think the father would immediately say to him, it's not hard.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea how easy it is. I mean, the father, he runs out to him, which is another thing that you can talk about. He's the master. He's the Lord. They don't go running out to him. You come to them. And so again, the whole thing, it's just, you have these movies and these stories and these things start to happen. And it's just at the one time, it's incredibly mysterious and odd that it's happening. But at the other side, it's so incredibly true and like piercingly accurate. Of course, the father is going to do this.
Yeah.
He's almost making a fool of himself. He's lowering himself to go hug his disgusting, smelly, pig filth ridden son. And, and obviously, we can find ourselves in the younger brother, the older brother, different times in our life. Boy, it'd be great to strive for the mercy of the father, but those aren't the other characters in the story. And I also think about the servants of the father. They might have had a thing or two to say to these kids, to the younger son, like, you punk, you had no idea what you did to your father after you left. The day after day, he would just look out to the horizon, hoping that he might see you. And every day his heart broke again. And to the older brother, you selfish little punk, you have no idea how good your father, but that's not their role. It's prepare the feast. Let the goodness and the mercy and the generosity of the father speak for itself. I kind of see that very priestly image in there. Prepare the feast and then back off. Because there's nothing I can do that will ever raise to the level of the father's goodness. And so, like you said, you've read it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Never stop reading that because there's just so many different arenas in there. But I do think kind of the good news is, as I said before, if you were to go in and write the rest of that story, I think most people would say, I hope he goes in there and makes up with his brother.
Have you given that exercises before?
No, I haven't.
But it's a good idea.
But I think it's something to think about.
I want you to actually make your seminarians do that, and then I want to we should record that and post it.
And read
Them reading the
make
end.
them read them out loud.
Yeah.
The end of their stories.
Read the end of the because it's
the
dying
grotto.
dying and rising, dying and
In the
rising.
grotto.
In the dumpster.
Leaving the old behind, becoming new over and over and over and over again. It's a lifetime process. But Lent helps us with that focus, right?
There is actually something there about a dumpster haven becoming a grotto in this whole thing we just talked about. Look at that.
I mean, the second reading is whoever comes in Christ
Yeah.
becomes a new creation.
And so, yeah,
Taste and see, guys.
for the father, he sees his son coming towards him, and it's just like he's alive. He was lost. Like, this is a miracle that he's in my arms again.
What do you think?
Of course, we're having a freaking party.
Yeah.
What do you think the sons' names are?
Ooh.
Oh, I've never really given them names.
Yeah.
Andy and Andy, I suppose.
Which one's the beloved?
They're both me. That's so beautiful, Father.
Both named after their father.
After their father.
Also Andy.
And then, of course, the father is, the most prodigal of the three. He's the most wasteful. And that's God. He just pours gifts, pours grace on us. And like, how often do we just waste it?
Man, you always bring these great, I've never thought of that. Like, God is the most wasteful of all, but you're right.
But he's
he just pours it out infinitely and we just ignore it.
Yeah.
He just keeps pouring.
Yeah, he's not diminished by that.
No.
But he's just like, here, take it all. And then again, you move to Calvary. Jesus is like, my body, my blood, here, take everything. Because I love you. And we're just like,
we're loved by a wasteful God. I love it. That's a
he can't.
That's a good one.
He can't help himself.
Yeah.
Our God is a giver. He wouldn't know what to do with himself if he couldn't treat his children.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That was a good time.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Father.
The prodigals, not exactly,
What does prodigal mean?
Wally Ward to be wasteful.
Wasteful? Okay. I was talking about this.
It's like the Cleavers,
Yeah. So,
That's the reference.
Sure.
Ward, Wally, the Beaver, little Eddie Haskell in there.
You're Eddie Haskell.
I'm Eddie Haskell.
all right. Ready for the dumb questions?
Yeah.
Great.
All right. I'm holding on. I've been holding on to one since, earlier this week, Scott and I had this debate and I said, well, we got a podcast coming up. I'm going to ask Father Andy this question.
No, Lord.
Okay. So Lent, Fridays,
Heard
we
of
go
it?
meatless, right? You're on track with me here. Meatless Fridays.
We don't eat meat on Fridays?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm kidding.
now that you know that information,
do not eat meat on Fridays.
is it acceptable or do you need special permission to transfer your meatless day to a different day?
We don't do that.
No, it's not an okay thing.
Well, in the past, so like St. Patrick's Day, this was years and years ago when
I remember,
at least the time I was thinking that yes, you could switch your meat.
Because
I know I said
bishop gave a dispensation.
Yes, I said
do
we
it
don't
in
do
the
that,
diocese.
but yes, there are certain circumstances where you can get it moved. So like if you're traveling
with permission,
I think you can eat meat, but you have to get permission.
Traveling. Who do you get permission from?
Probably your pastor. Don't quote me on that. But yes, the reasons as to why you would get it transferred are very small. And at the end, the other side, I'm just suck it up, goober, and have a piece of fish.
Say hypothetically, you're traveling and you're going to be going to Buc-ee's, and they're very well known for their chopped brisket.
No, offer it up.
Offered up, or buy a chopped brisket sandwich,
or
set it in the car, and as you're driving in the middle of the night and the clock strikes midnight, you get after that.
Try to find that.
Or 4 p.m. if you're Catholic.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Once you start the vigil, but yes, there are certain
the vigil of Saturday.
There are certain instances. The Saturday vigil, the Saturday morning vigil, the meat vigil,
meat vigil.
But yes, there are rare exceptions.
Never forget the meat vigil begins at 4 p.m.
Folks, none of what we're saying is applicable to your life. I promise you.
Oh,
But yes, there are the rare exceptions that you can have that happen, but it's got to come from on high to do that.
So traveling, you
and
said.
it can't.
Okay.
No,
Traveling
I
is
was
what you
traveling,
said.
and we
Got it.
got dispensation to eat meat for when we were doing this travel day. That being said, like if you were traveling on a plane and they're like, all we have left is chicken, and I got to eat,
They always have vegetarian meals
I know
left.
that they always have vegetarian because who wants that dog food? Anyways, I'm sorry
usually
for the
pasta,
vegetarians
like-
out there, but
Dog food.
also in America, there are so many good meatless options. Like shrimp lo mein, I would eat that on a Tuesday in
Yeah.
July.
Yeah.
It's not the burden.
Yeah.
Going meatless. Meat used to be, that was an expensive thing. Like that was a rich person's food.
Now seafood is.
Now seafood is the rich.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go back. You open it up, fried chicken on Fridays,
Hot dogs.
hot dogs.
You got to go
on
meager.
Fridays.
Just
or
yeah.
spam.
Yeah.
I like spam. Some people might consider that a penance.
Can eat platypus, right?
Does mystery meat count as meat?
is platypus a fit?
What is a platypus? Isn't it the thing with like the long bill
Yeah.
creature?
Yeah, Father Peter was telling me a couple weeks ago, the one you missed, that there's like, you have to go back and listen to it. I don't remember everything, but there's certain animals like crocodiles, for example.
Ooh,
Definitely,
I
an
know
animal, but like
yeah.
there used to be a guy in Rome that like when they were exploring the new worlds, they would say, "This is the animal. This is how it acts. Can we eat it on Fridays?" And that was that guy's job. Like, yes, Monsignor, you can eat
That's great.
crocodile. I don't know if he still has a job or not, but
Well,
I know
because you see it swimming through the water. That might have been their first.
I did
encounter
see
with the
somebody
crocodile.
share out like there's like every year the bishop in like one of the bishops of Louisiana or maybe all of them like they issue a statement that reminds everybody that alligator is considered a part of the meatless fast. Or
yeah. But there's a weird one like a platypus or something.
Yeah,
Don't quote me
that's
on that,
funny.
but,
But
like
there,
it.
I would say just as a general rule for guidance here is, if you're trying to work super hard to get out of eating meat one day a week, you go pray.
All right.
Go pray. And go get
It's good
some,
information for whoever it was that had that question.
go get some shrimp lo mein and have a PB&J.
Yeah, it is a broken piece of Buc-ee's. They don't have a meatless option. I learned this last year. I did go meatless last year, and then we stopped, and I was like, all they had was a vegetarian burrito. That was the most meatless thing they had. I'm like,
they have like tons of bags of like weird food that doesn't have
beef
meat in it.
jerky.
So you went meatless.
Yeah, I mean, I beaver nuggets, but
you went meatless for the whole of Lent.
no. We were traveling on a Friday in Lent last year.
Oh,
This always ends up happening around spring break. We go on spring break trips, and we travel on Friday. And so I end up encountering this issue on the road, which again, like you said, there's every fast food restaurant on earth now has a fish sandwich, and
all
you
the
can
fast
figure
food
it out.
places,
Yeah.
they know Lent is coming because you
Yeah.
start getting the 2 for $6.
Hey, fish
meals.
lovers.
Yeah.
That's what McDonald's does.
They say in that voice.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's
fish
weird.
lovers.
Hey, fish lovers.
And then they wink at me.
This is more just dumb story, but I thought I'd tell you that with the prodigal son reflection, there was one of these retreats where at the last minute somebody had to leave and I had to do this, and I found out like 5 minutes before. And so I came up with this idea of like, well, I'll do this reflection. What I'm going to do is like try to emphasize the different perspectives. So we read the prodigal son reading, and then I talked about like the role of the father, and I said, all right, now listen to it again. But and I just did, but I ended up reading the passage like 5 times during this whole thing. And I still have a friend who relentlessly makes fun of me for it. Every time he's like, what, are you going to read that 5 times to us? Anyway,
Yeah,
that's just that.
that's
a
one way to
lot.
get 12 pages.
Yeah.
I was very creative in college on making my papers longer.
Oh, I can't begin to imagine.
Very, 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 very excited.
You for sure would have gotten in trouble for AI writing papers for you.
I
You
mean,
might not have gotten caught, but you would have had AI write papers for you.
I didn't do anything illegal.
Yeah.
I was good at like making things long. I'm a very concise person. I say the things that I need to say. Like I don't elaborate, but like I learned that if you just use the word therefore, you can just basically say you're the same sentence again in another way. I just did that a lot.
I think it's funny that you said illegal. Like I didn't shoot anybody while I was doing it.
I wasn't dealing heroin while I was writing my papers.
I do think the statutes of limitations is up on this one, but the most illegal thing I did in college writing was to make the overall paper longer. I would hit Control F, which on a computer that
I know what it is.
allows you.
No way, I don't. I don't know what that is.
So Control
A
F,
computer is a device that has
it'll find all those things. So it's like find and replace. You can replace everything. So if I wanted to change everything that had the in it, I would hit Control F and it would highlight all the words that say the, and then you can replace.
Get out of town.
You can replace all those with
yeah.
I don't know, another. What's another word for the? There's not.
There's
I don't
not.
know why
Those-
the. You could add another letter and just make it a little bit longer.
You could highlight like DR period and change it all to doctor.
Exactly.
Yes.
What
I
I did.
can't believe that's that you can do this.
Yeah.
Yes.
2025.
Do it on a regular basis with things. Yeah.
Fascinating.
But if you select all your periods and then make them 14 font instead of 12 font, it like adds a half a page.
Never did anything illegal, huh?
That's the most illegal one.
The illegal, the Chat GPT. I got to think though that some of these professors, like you get an AI written paper and it's just like you're 19 years old and this is a world class physicist paper. You did not write this.
Or the other way, like you hear the stories come out about like there's just like AI is pulling from any source. It doesn't necessarily if you don't like give it the right sources, it'll pull anything. So my wife in the legal world, like the AI is a big concern right now, but very quickly after ChatGPT came out, there was some story that came out about a court filing that somebody did where they cited case law it just didn't exist. It was from some like made up source that had fake case law in it as like a practice for people to use in learning like law, and they were citing this case law in their court filing, and then they were reprimanded and jailed as in contempt.
Our AI overlords are not as I don't. No.
Yeah.
I ain't worried about them.
All right. Well, statute of limitations might be up, but I don't know if that works for Jesus. So you got time for confession after this?
The statute limitation.
It's, again, weird, but not a sin. This is one of my favorite. One of my favorite like ongoing memes is people saying like, like I'm sorry because my butt touched the pew while I was kneeling in mass.
Yeah.
Again, weird, but not a sin. Like you don't have to be here for this. Anyway,
There you go.
all right.
So happy Lent.
Happy
Yeah.
Lent. We only
Good.
got to light one more candle and then we'll. Oh wait, that's
No, we're almost Latarying.
We are almost Latarying. And again, be very careful about sneaking meat in on Fridays.
I won't.
I
right.
won't.
thanks, Father.
Or that person probably won't now that you said that.
Bye.
Bye.
It's alright, cause I'm all set for. It's alright, cause I'm all set for. It's alright, cause I'm all set for Sunday.